Today, the world is seeing something no one ever thought they'd hear. A prime minister before another country, not with apologies, but with honesty and bravery. Stay to the end, because what Jamaica just did could forever alter the course of world history. Respected guests, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, honorable military leaders, African Union representatives, honorable members of parliament, and the great Jamaican people viewing this turning point. I address you not only as Jamaica's Prime Minister, but also as a man deeply cognizant of the burden of history and the duty to confront that which many of us before us have shirked. This is not a political statement. It is not a PR stunt, nor a well-rehearsed quote. This is a day of courage, a day of honesty, a day when apology truly means something greater than words. For decades, the Burkina Faso people have suffered at the hands of outside pressure, manipulation and structures meant to keep your country small, quiet, and in chains. And for too long, indirectly or directly, many of us watched it occur. We remained silent, gained from that imbalance, and in the process, defaulted on Africa. Defaulted on you. For this, as Prime Minister of Jamaica, I say it simply, we were wrong. Very wrong, but this apology is not symbolic. It's supported by action. For the first time in Jamaica's history in the modern era, we are making an investment of $600 million in reparative assistance to the government and citizens of Burkina Faso. This is not charity, it's justice. It's about healing, about making things right, about giving back dignity, accountability, and humanity, because reconciliation without restoration is nothing more than a hollow word. President Ibrahim Traoré, with you at the helm, Burkina Faso is a shining example of bravery in a world where too often silence is equated with diplomacy. You opted for sovereignty over surrender, for dignity over dependency, and for that, you have earned not only the admiration of your own people, but of millions around the globe who observe in reverent silence. As a leader of a small Caribbean country, I know what that's like. Jamaica, too, has borne the wounds of exploitation, colonial domination, and injustice. For centuries, we were instructed that our futures were not our own, that we should be grateful for leftovers while others profited from our sweat and our soil. We were instructed to be quiet. But silence does not heal. It merely keeps the wound concealed until it boils open anew. The history of Burkina Faso and the history of Jamaica are not dissimilar. Two countries relegated to the periphery of world power. Two people weighed down by shackles we did not create. But history has come to a place where responsibility can no longer be delayed. There is a time in history when moral obligation needs to transcend political expediency, and for Jamaica, that time is today. Old wounds were not made by one hand but also by others who watched and remained silent. When I consider what Burkina Faso suffered, the economic sanctions, the propaganda, the constant pressure to yield, I see echoes of the struggles of so many other nations like ours. But where others yielded to pressure, you remained strong. Where others murmured, you spoke boldly. And where many withdrew, you pressed on. Such courage is owed more than applause. It's owed actual, material solidarity. Let's say the truth that many great powers refuse to hear. Africa wasn't poor. Africa was rendered poor by systems designed to extract, exploit, and dominate, by policies that rewarded the compliance of colonies, and by tales that demonized resistance as rebellion. These were not exceptions. They were part of a master plan. And yes, countries such as mine were frequently trapped in that system, sometimes colluding with it, sometimes managing to survive beneath it. Not always on our own terms, but certainly complicit nonetheless. That's why today is not about Jamaica saving Burkina Faso. It's not about altruism. It's about owning up to our silence and complicity in an international order that enriched a few at the expense of the many. $600 million can't erase centuries of injustice. It can't return all the stolen dreams or wipe away all the scars, but it's a start, an honest, accountable start. A start towards reimagining how Jamaica and Burkina Faso, and by extension all countries of the global south, interact with one another, not as donors and dependents, but as equals. This pledge will have no conditions attached, no strings, no political camouflage. It is not foreign aid. It is a reparative act, unfettered, unconditional, placed in the fullest trust in your government and your people. Not a handout, but a hand extended in respect. When we gazed backward at our history of trade, our choices of diplomacy, and our position in the international system, There was one reality that became impossible to deny. All too often, Jamaica reaped quietly from a world system founded on pain from Africa. We preached about oneness, yet did not work with boldness. And so, this apology is not merely to you, it's a mirror held to us. President Traoré, I have heard your words, your voice rising above the din of international diplomacy. You've spoken. Dignity is not for sale. Sovereignty is not negotiable. Africa will never kneel again. And when I heard you say those words, they pierced me deeply. Not only as a leader, but as a man who understands what it is to inherit the burden of history. Because too many countries of the global south have worn the diplomatic mask while bleeding silently. Too many have accepted conditional loans, bowed in international corridors, and signed agreements that enriched the rich and impoverished their own children. What you have done, President Traoré, is remind the whole world that a people who will suffer for their dignity are greater than any empire founded on dishonesty. And that's why this moment is important. Because this apology isn't merely about correcting the past. It's about redefining the future. It's about creating a bridge between the Caribbean and Africa that is not dependent on approval or permission from others. It's about understanding that our power does not lay in conformity with other people's global systems, but in becoming the designers of our own fate. Our $500 million investment will be paid out over 5 years, not to manage or oversee its use, but to ensure that Burkina Faso and America have a long-lasting, sustainable partnership. We hope this fund will fuel Burkina Faso's aspirations, whether in farming, technology, education, or healthcare. Wherever your citizens determine they're needed most, we will not manage. We will not meddle. For the very first time, Jamaica is not present to write your development narrative, but only to tell you, this is your story to write. I've also directed that a bilateral reparative development council be formed, not to dictate, but to hear. It will consist of equal voices from Jamaica and Burkina Faso, youth leaders, elders, economists, and cultural custodians. Its mandate is simple, to ensure the bridge we construct between our two countries is built on trust and not bureaucracy. Naturally, there will be those who object to this move. They'll say, why would Jamaica, a tiny nation, commit so boldly? They'll declare, we can't afford it. They'll describe it as reckless, political, unnecessary. But this is what we really can't afford. We can't afford to continue living in the shadow of past injustice. We can't afford to remain silent. We can't afford to sing about Pan-Africanism in our songs and orations and turn a blind eye when Africa stands alone. We can't afford to construct the future on the pillars of an unreconciled past. Our forefathers envisioned union. Our forebears, great champions, laureates, revolutionaries, foresaw a day when Africa and the Caribbean would emerge together, not as distant cousins, but as a single people with a single purpose and a single voice. That vision was postponed, true, but never lost. It continues to live in the hearts of youth throughout our nations. Young Africans, young Jamaicans, who no longer wish to inherit shame, but pride, who no longer wish to read about solidarity, but to live it. President Traoré, today I do not merely apologize, I vow. A vow that this moment won't end here. It won't disappear after the applause. It won't wither away after the headlines. It will go on in commerce, in cultural exchange, in education, in cooperation, in standing as equals together on the world stage. Jamaica will stand with Burkina Faso, not as a witness, but as a protector of your independence. We will raise our voice when others fall quiet. We will employ our voice not as a whisper, but as a megaphone for justice. Because for far too long, nations such as ours have waited for someone else to say what justice should be. But authentic justice, real justice, is never bestowed by the powerful. It is demanded, and it is forged by those who will not forget. Jamaica will not forget. And let me be clear, this apology is not where we stop. It's just the start of a long, hard journey. A journey that will require us to be honest, patient, and courageous. We will make mistakes along the way, but we will walk this road with humility and integrity. I stand here today as the head of a nation that stood in silence when the world turned its back on Africa. But that silence is broken today. Jamaica shall no longer be a bystander. We shall no longer sit on the sidelines while history is made. We will be part of the chorus that shouts out, Africa deserves justice. We will be members of the alliance that creates rather than exploits, that enriches rather than subjugates. We will be members of a heritage which generations to come can be proud to call their own. President Traoré, I extend to you my greatest respect. You have not only guarded your country but have inspired millions well beyond your borders. You've shown that leadership is not reduced to wealth or power, but to conviction and courage. Your example has reached across the Atlantic, stirring debate in Jamaican homes, schools, and parliaments. You've awakened something strong, a reminder that dignity is not a privilege. It's a right, so I want to say this plainly. This $600 million apology is not an offering. It's a debt paid, a wrongdoing made right, a bridge being repaired, and if history recalls this moment, I hope it's not for the figure, but for the strength it took to face what so many have shunned. To the people of Burkina Faso, Jamaica honors you. Jamaica stands in solidarity with you. Jamaica sees you, not through the filter of Western ideology, but through the collective vision of struggle, resilience, and destiny. Let this moment mark the beginning of something much bigger than two countries. Let it start a movement in the global South, a flame that declares enough to exploitation, enough to silencing, enough to division. The $600 million pledge starts today, but its significance will be heard for centuries. It will be used to construct schools where children can learn their real history, not colonial myth. It will be used to make hospitals where your nation can recover with honor. It will be used to make industries that make Burkina Faso autonomous. And it will be used to power the aspirations of a new generation, one that is not defined by poverty, but possibility. And to the international community observing, know this. This is not about guilt. It's about justice. It's not about weakness. It's about strength. It's not about erasing history, but facing it with courage. President Traoré, thank you for accepting this apology in such strength and grace. To the people of Burkina Faso, thank you for your resilience. To the people of Jamaica, thank you for having faith in a decision the world may not yet see, but history will reward. And to the world audience watching this, may this inspire not just admiration, but action. Two countries, divided by an ocean, but united by pain, by struggle, and now, by purpose. Together with this apology, with this commitment, and with this newfound bond, we say, let the period of silence end. Let the period of justice begin. Thank you.